Okay, guys, welcome to our inaugural Fuel for Life program. This is a continuation of the nutrition program that we started last year. But anyway, so it's a new program. This is day one, and over the course of the next 48 hours, you guys are going to be getting a lot of materials coming by text message and by email. The documents that you're going to need to get the program started. So the program is all about teaching you guys the basics of nutrition, why it's important to your body, and to your health and to your capabilities in life, and what you can do to improve your nutrition, and then what you can do to sustain those improvements. And that's maybe the biggest, most important part. If that part works, then this whole 6 week exercise becomes a stepping stone for a total change of habits that will last the rest of your life. So a lot of the course materials that you'll be getting starting today and tomorrow focus on the nuts and bolts of nutrition, what macros are, what kind of proteins you should be eating, well, what are healthy fats, what are unhealthy fats, all that stuff. And we'll talk about mostly about that stuff today. But it's going to be a whole lot of material about, okay, why do I feel this way? What are my drivers for wanting to change? What are my goals out of this? And how am I going to reach those goals? Starting today. What should I do this month to try to reach those goals? What should I do this week? How should I organize my day to support the goals that I have for the week, and so on. So we're building capabilities on strategically how to set goals and to reach them, but also mindfully how to create habits and sustain those habits. And most programs that I've ever heard of, that's the case. People get on something and they get results, and then it's not sustainable, or it's not an enjoyable lifestyle. Like, good examples, keto. Okay, you guys know what keto is, right? Ketogenesis. It's a real radical diet where you go all the way to fat, and basically you knock out most of the carbs, if not all the carbs, and a lot of the proteins too, and you eat a diet of fat. You've heard about that before, right? Um, so I've never met a single person that didn't lose a ton of weight on keto, and I've never met a single person that didn't gain it all back afterwards, because the keto diet is terribly it's very, very focused, and it's very effective, but it's just not a pleasant way to live your life. Does everybody know what paleo means? Know what paleo means? You know what Paleolithic means? Okay, so if you take the Paleolithic era, the premise is that man, as a hunter-gatherer, was maybe at their most capable in terms of functioning in life, like running down deer for days, and being super active and getting things done, and being, from a strength to weight ratio, being really strong and being healthy, and being less susceptible to all the diseases that we take for granted nowadays. So the paleo diet is okay. How did they eat back then? Well, it was hunter gatherers, so they weren't farmers. They were hunting. They were getting meat from the hunting. They were gathering mostly nuts and seeds and some fruits and things like that. And that diet, that nutrition program, that was like the default program. You had no choice. That's how you had to eat back then. You couldn't go to the grocery store. Um, that actually made them into physically more capable and less disease-ridden human beings. And if you track a lot of the diseases that are out there today, you will find that over the last 60 or 70 years, a lot of them have just skyrocketed. And it's hard to pinpoint exactly what the causes are, but the correlations with things like industrial seed oils and sugars, and especially like high fructose corn syrup, so industrially produced sweet things, those correlations to diseases are extremely strong nowadays. The weight epidemic in America, and the insulin sensitivity epidemic in America can be tracked to a lot of um, the things that have been produced by big food to make it fun and addicting and enjoyable to sell their products for us to eat. Big food, which has created everything in the middle of the grocery store, has made America it's most disease prone that it's ever been. This is a demonstration of what I was just talking about. Because of the way we eat with super processed foods and sugars in almost everything, very, very starchy carbs, right and left, all the breakfast cereals you can think of, all the crap that we eat for snacks, all this stuff super highly processed. It goes into your bloodstream very, very quickly. It creates an insulin response very, very quickly, and it sets you up for basically an insulin sensitivity problem. Your body starts producing more and more of it and becomes less sensitive to the effects of it, and you start getting inflammation. And inflammation is the base metabolic state for every single disease that you see here, which is every disease I can think of pretty much. What's missing? Not a whole lot. You name a disease that's missing on that list, and it's probably one that is connected to inflammation in some way. So the American diet has created the American health crisis, and this program is designed to get people off of the standard American diet into a much healthier, much more sustainable, much more easily habit forming, much more enjoyable, much less expensive, better way of living and better way of cooking and eating for sure. The people that have gone through the program have gotten better results in the gym in terms of being stronger, faster, more capable. They've gotten better recovery. They've gotten lower inflammation, better sleep at night, better digestive processes, more comfortable. Every single thing you can think of has gone in the right direction because they just cleaned up what they ate, but they also cleaned up the way they were eating, the speed at which they were eating, the way in which they snacked, and so many other things too. So anyway, we're excited about the program because it has given us really good results the 5 times we've done it, and this time is number 6. Okay. There are 37 trillion cells in your body. Every one of them responds to what you eat. Every one of them is affected directly by what goes in your mouth and in your nose and absorbed into your skin. So everything that you consume, that you absorb into your body, goes into your cells, all 37 trillion of them. They're all responding differently. They're all doing their jobs or trying to do their jobs. But at the mitochondrial level, in each of those 37 trillion cells, there is a response, a mechanism response to what's going on when you sit down and eat a meal. When you think about that, and think about the enormity and the complexity of that, it makes you want to be more respectful of the process of consuming food for proper nutrition versus consuming it because you're hungry for a cookie or a donut. So the idea with the whole program is to learn enough about what's going on, and then to learn the tools of how to make a change, and then learn the mindset on how to make that change sustainable. And that's what we're doing here. So anyway, back to paleo. It's about so meats, and there's a lot of discussion about protein, vegetable-based proteins, pea proteins, and other things, and are they more healthy than red meat and white meat and other meats? And the answer is basically the human body was designed to consume meat, and when humans started consuming meat, their brains got bigger really fast, and things started evolving really, really quickly because the protein density and the amino acid portfolio that is present in most meats is far superior to what you would get in non-meat protein sources. So anyway, meats in the paleo diet, and then the nuts and seeds and some fruit for your carb source and for your fat source. That gave you the 3 macros that you need to survive. We're going to talk about those in this program too. So why was that a problem? Why did paleo not work? So that paleo is specific to no dairy, and my personal belief and my experience tells me that you either have a lactose intolerance or you don't. I for sure don't have a lactose intolerance. So should I avoid dairy? Should I avoid like whey protein for my protein source, or should I avoid, for God's sakes, avoid cheese? That would be a real problem. But I mean, there's so many things like dairy source, like yogurt and a lot of other things too, that a lot of people do like and do thrive on. So should we knock dairy out completely out? We as a whole, I say, should take a look at that and see if it makes sense for us personally before we make that decision. Oh, intermittent fasting. That's another one. So I like to talk about that one too, because I think there's something to that. There's also something to taking that to extremes and not being sustainable. So the something to that, I believe, is I know for me personally, if I have some time between dinner and bedtime, I sleep much better at night. I'm not saying I'm hungry going to bed, but I'm definitely not full going to bed. That's the ideal situation for me. So letting your body process the food and then giving it a break for a bit, I think it just helps it to stay in balance with all the other metabolic processes that are going on. And if you just kind of spread the time out between dinner and breakfast, it can be, I think reasonable intermittent fasting can be 12, 13, or 14 hours. It doesn't have to be 16 or 18 hours. You don't have to cram all your eating into 6 hours, which a lot of people do, and then take 18 hours of somewhat miserable time fasting. I think you can do it a little more in a more nuanced way than that. And so do a little bit, and when you intermittent fast a little bit, you're keeping your body's ability to train itself to use the stored fat. You're keeping that pathway in shape, if you will. So if your body never burns fat and you put on a pound of fat, then you're going to have another pound of fat and then another pound of fat and another. If you're never reducing it, then you're going to have that issue. But if you keep your body's capability of processing, through the reverse engineering of a fat cell, then that's a healthy process to have kind of going at all times. This program doesn't focus a whole lot on the timing on your meals, and it does force you to eat quite a bit. It's 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus 2 snacks, 1 or 2 snacks, and it's hard to do. It's hard to do mostly because we're adding a whole lot of fibrous, high fiber vegetables and things like that, volume stuff into your diet, and that volume stuff is hard to consume because you're consuming a lot of fiber and you're consuming a lot of water, and it fills you up faster. And then we're going to teach you how to eat slower, which helps your satiation chemistry get right, and your brain recognizes that your body hasn't had enough to eat, and you stop being hungry. Those kinds of things. That slows down the process. But anyway, so we're going to even out the process, but I still like the idea of having some time to recover from constant digestion. Anyway, so intermittent fasting, there's really something to be said for that. And the keto diet, which I mentioned earlier, there's something to be said for your body. It's kind of the same process as this. You're training your body to convert fats to energy. You're making sure the training is up to date and the body is doing a good job of consuming fats for energy. And that's why, but the diet of just fats and fats and fats is just not. I've never known anybody to sustain it. They come out of the diet, they've lost 50 pounds. A year later, they've gained 60 or 70. So that's my experience. Okay, so in Fuel for Life, everything is about macros. Okay, and you guys know what the macros are, right? When I say macros, you know what the macro nutrients are, right? You'll know as soon as I say it. You know what? Okay, proteins, okay, and carbohydrates, and fats. Okay, we're not going to go into a super deep dive on these, but just trust me, your body needs all 3 to survive and to thrive. Does it? I mean, there are workarounds on all that. There's actually proteins in carbs and fats, and vice versa. There's some carryover, but a healthy diet, the healthy diet that we're going to create here, we're going to sustain here, has a very specific balance of those 3 ingredients in every single one of those meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and every single snack that you take. And that's kind of the tricky part for most people. Most people will grab a banana or grab an apple or grab a couple of crackers or some cheese or something just to get a quick snack. And we're going to put an end to that for the next 6 weeks. And we're going to teach you how to pre-build some snacks so you can just grab it. Or if you're heading out somewhere, you can grab your lunch and your snack, and you're going to be ready at all times. Being ready is meal prepping is all about being ready. Okay, preparing it ahead so you're not caught driving by Chick-fil-A and being tempted to pull into the drive-through there because you're starving. Or you're starving, you grab your snack and you eat it, and it's a balance of proteins, fats, and carbs, and suddenly you're fully satiated from that little snack because you are giving your body all the things that it needs. So why does the body need protein? Amino acids are the building blocks for proteins, right? So there's 20 amino acids in the human genome, if you will. 9 of them are essential. And what the word essential means in this case is that your body can't produce those amino acids. It has to consume them. Some of those amino acids your body can actually create from other molecules, and it's a really amazing process. But the 9 essential amino acids that we often talk about, and you've heard the term branched chain amino acids. A lot of the supplements that we take, the whey proteins or other protein shakes we get, talk about the BCAAs, the branched chain amino acids. So basically, the amino acids that we can't produce ourselves, that we have to consume from foods, that we will have metabolic derangement if we don't have, those are the essential amino acids. So there's like 500 amino acids out there. And these are the ones that we have to really focus on making sure that we're consuming and processing correctly. Because why? Every cell in our body is made of protein. So proteins are the number 2 component in our human body. Anybody know what number 1 is? You almost said it. I saw your lips go. Water. For sure, water. And it's the first thing that will kill you. If you cut everything off, what's the first thing that's going to kill you? The lack of water. So
the water that has minerals, right?
Water that has minerals in a nice balance, we call those electrolytes. That's essential as well. And if you're drinking a lot of water, like this summer when everybody was sweating a whole bunch and drinking lots of water, we talked about electrolytes constantly. Now that you've brought that up, let's just cover that subject or just nail it and be done with it. We're just going to say sodium, magnesium, potassium, and sometimes calcium's on the list. But you have to have balances of those minerals in your body or you will die as well. You can have a sodium shock, too high or too low, and I think you'll be laying on the floor dead if that happens. So there are all kinds of things going on in the body that require these things. If you're drinking lots of water, which you should be doing, then occasionally you either get it in your foods or you have to supplement your water with those things. Healthy diet will give you most of those already. And everybody knows that if you have too much sodium in your diet, you could have high blood pressure and other problems. So everything's in balance. So anyway, and that brings me to the other subject, which is we talk about the macros, but we also have to be mindful of the micronutrients, like vitamins and minerals. Minerals like these right here and vitamins like the ones we take in a multivitamin. There's 13 vitamins and 14 minerals that our bodies need to survive. And you can get those in a healthy diet. You can get those through supplementation. A healthy diet, it's more complex than it used to be because you have to think about, especially in the case of, everybody talks about Costco. Oh, I got this at Costco. I can get like 6 salmon fillets for $6 or whatever it is. Crazy amounts of what sounds like healthy foods for crazy nothing money. And it's because big food is producing these things, but they're produced in many cases, and you have to be careful, they're producing those things in a modern, high-tech, fast production way that's stripping them of essential nutrients. And especially if they're churning the soil and just fertilizing it with one particular thing or another to keep it growing stuff, big food is now producing. Broccoli's not broccoli anymore. You have to know where the broccoli came from and how it how it was grown, because soil nutrient density is a real issue. So anyway, we're going to focus on the proteins, the carbs, and the fats in our program, making sure that we take care of micros. I'll tell you what I do at one point or another, multivitamins and omega-3s and things like that. And then water for sure has to be a significant component. Okay, so back to the proteins. We're going to base the diet basically on the protein requirement. That's how most of them work. That's how paleo works. But we're actually starting this program, and this is for the people listening at home as well. I'm giving you a meal plan that's on a point system. And the point system is basically a mechanism that we use to make sure that these three things are balanced, okay? And every meal that you have has a certain number of, it's going to be like a 4-point or a 5-point meal. And a 4-point meal is going to mean that you have 4 points of proteins, which is basically like an ounce of protein. So in a 4-point meal, you would have 4 ounces of a 1/4 pound of the meat source, the chicken or the fish or the hamburger or whatever it is. 4 points of that, 4 points of this, and 4 points of this. Okay, this part here is going to look smaller because 4 points of a fat is less food. Fat is a higher density by 2x. It's a higher density caloric content substance than carbohydrates and proteins. Proteins and carbs are like 4 calories per gram, and a fat is 9 calories per gram. So that's literally double. So if your fat source on your plate, let's say you have a big old steak and it's got like a little trimming of fat on it, that trimming of fat's worth 2x what it looks like because it's more dense. Anyway, proteins, essential for the building blocks for our bodies. Carbohydrates, the main thing there is the source of the energy for the body. That's where you get most of your energy for your body processes that you're living with and going through. Okay, we're going to talk in more detail here about the glycemic index in just a second, starting with high, going all the way down to low. We're going to have some fun with that in a sec. Okay, fats. Fats are the manufactured demon that big food focused all of the advertising on to convince people that you could eat all this stuff, calories, a calorie, but you got to have low fat to be healthy. Or nowadays it's like low gluten. If it's low gluten, then it's good for you. Or if they'll come up with something else and something else and something else. What they're trying to avoid is the correct indictment that starchy carbs and sugar are the things that are creating these inflammation problems that we have family members in our family tree that are dying from. It's all from the starchy carbs and unhealthy fats, but starchy carbs and sugars especially that are creating those metabolic derangements. Okay, so your body needs protein for building blocks, carbohydrates for energy, and fats for all sorts of metabolic processes. Remember those 37 trillion cells that are stuck together making our bodies? Every one of them has necessary transport mechanisms to get all the stuff in and all the stuff out that needs to make that cell, to enable that cell to do its job. It can be a liver cell, it can be a pancreatic cell, it can be a brain cell, it can be a muscle cell, it doesn't matter. They all have to have things going in and out. And in the mitochondria in the cell, there's all these chemical processes going on. And some things are necessary for living, other things are waste stream stuff. And the transport mechanisms for all of this stuff are fats. Okay, so you have to have a healthy balance of fats in your diet to facilitate all those processes that are going on. So the main thing I want to talk about there, we'll come back to that after we finish this, is omega-3 versus omega-6. And then we're going to talk about industrial seed oils. Okay, and the importance of avoiding those in your diet. Okay, so let's go back to carbohydrates. glycemic index. You're getting materials this weekend which will categorize foods according to their position on the glycemic index. The glycemic index is basically a measure of the rate at which the food is absorbed into the bloodstream. We talked about the metabolic diseases that come from hyperinsulinemia. The main cause of hyperinsulinemia is shocking the bloodstream with super high blood sugar, forcing the pancreas to produce the insulin to bring it back down, and then setting up an insulin regime where you're more predisposed to fat cell production than burning the energy, burning the calories. But anyway, all the sugars are going to be high on the glycemic index. So let's just say we'll just put sugar right here, because everything on the list is compared to the absorption rate of sugar in the bloodstream. How fast does sugar raise your blood sugar? When you consume sugar, how fast does it raise your blood sugar? So sugar's number one on the glycemic index. Okay, so where would I put Lucky Charms? Right up there too. Okay, let's call it Lucky Charms. How about Captain Crunch? Does that ring a bell? How about Frosted Mini Wheats?
Okay.
Okay, so all the cereals that are mass marketed for kids, Frosted Flakes. Yeah, Frosted Mini Wheats, you think of that as being a healthy thing. I mean, the word frosted kind of gives it away, but so there's two things going on there. It's not just the sugar content, it's the fact that the flour in that product has been highly processed to be basically a wheat. Let's see, go over here. A wheat kernel has a husk around it, and then the meat is down in here. This husk is where all the fiber is. So if you have a whole wheat bread that's got some of the whole wheat pieces in it rather than just the super white starchy flour, basically they've taken away all of this. This is where all the nutrients are too. It's also where if you have a gluten intolerance, you can actually get rid of most of the gluten by taking the husk out of it too. So this part here, if you were to plot it here, it'd be just as high as sugar. The starchiest part of wheat that goes into making bread, flour, has an extremely high set point on the glycemic index. It goes into your bloodstream like that. So a piece of Wonder Bread. Is there still Wonder Bread on the shelves?
There is.
What a bad idea, because a piece of Wonder Bread is almost as bad as like up here with Lucky Charms. So Wonder Bread, put that on there.
Put all of my kids' stuff right up there. Everything.
Okay, hold on. I can only write so fast. So you're talking about gummies and goldfish. Anyway, okay, we're in the really high level. Anybody want to give me a medium number or a medium item? Say, where would I put carrots? It's pretty high. So I'm not going to put it down here in the regular vegetables, but I'll put it, that's not in the middle. I'd say it's below middle. Okay, what about broccoli further down? Okay, the fruits, it's a great question because they go from kind of down here, apples, dates, pretty high up, and maybe raisins. So there's some fruits that are pretty high on the index. Now, another thing I want to point out, and this is very, very important, and I need to get another chart, so I'll be right back. This is a faster grab. This is a chart that I put together to illustrate when we talk about sugars, especially what's really going on. There's three main types of sugar in the world. Glucose, which is kind of the main sugar source that you get in the fiber of plants, basically. It's part of the structure of plants. It's stored in plants as starch, okay? So glucose is basically the least sweet of the different types of sugars, okay? And what's cool about it is that when you consume glucose, every single cell in your body can consume it directly. It doesn't have to go through the liver to process. Fructose is the sugar that you find in fruits. Obviously, look at the difference from a chemistry standpoint. Looks like the same thing, just another line here or there. I mean, it's all carbohydrates, and they're really remarkably similar to each other. But fructose processes dramatically differently from glucose. Fructose, which is what most fruit has, goes almost completely to the liver and has to be processed in the liver. And if you overdo, like if you drink a big glass of juice every morning for breakfast, we used to think that was you're living a healthy life if you're doing that. But actually, you're consuming too much fructose. You're putting too much burden on the liver, and it's not particularly healthy for you. And it doesn't stimulate a satiety hormone in the brain, which means your body and your brain don't realize that you're full. So you could just overconsume a ton of fruit and not feel full at the same time. So champagne will put it further up on the glycemic index because of this little nasty right here, ethanol. So I should put a little photo of Christine right here on the ethanol. But notice, I mean, this is drawn differently, but it's a carbohydrate as well. Now, ethanol is tricky business because 80% of ethanol goes to the liver, okay, and the rest goes to your brain and other things. The brain part is the part that we thrive on when we're drinking alcohol, but this is not a food source that we would recommend, ethanol. Okay, sucrose is what you get in like cane sugar, and then all these other natural sources: pineapple, maple syrup, sugar beets, and things like that. This is a molecule of glucose and a molecule of fructose together, connected together. It's cleaved in the intestine, and then the fructose goes in one direction, the glucose goes in the other. But again, the point is that the glucose is something your whole body can absorb. The fructose slams your liver and can cause problems over time. So one thing we talk about when we talk about carbs is, yes, the fruit is in the carb list, but you don't want to be getting most of your carbs. You want to be getting a small percentage of your carbs from fruit. Now, a lot of fruits have some great micro benefits. You know, the vitamin C's we talked about. There's all kinds of profiles of healthy micronutrients that come out of fruit. So you got to keep that in mind as well. But don't focus your whole diet on eating a lot of fruit, thinking it's the carbohydrate that you love. You don't love broccoli, you love carrot. You don't love broccoli, you don't love carrots, but you sure love raisins. Well, too much of a good thing, especially with something like that. Too much fructose in the liver. So that's something you got to think about. Okay, so all of your leafy vegetables, all of them, leafy greens. Okay, so that's a great source of carbohydrates. Now, the deal here is the density is very low. I mean, these are big, like a you can think of a head of lettuce all chopped up to make a salad is a very voluminous thing, and you can eat a giant salad and it's not that much food. So consuming all of your carbohydrates through just vegetables, it'd be a really healthy way to do it, but most people can't keep up because it's just too much food, too much fiber. It's just too hard to process all that. So what we're going to do is have several meal examples given to you that throw healthy vegetables in with some starch, and one really good one that's about right here is sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes have a very nice micro profile, by the way. They're extremely healthy. Sweet potato, if you love potatoes, if you love potato chips, if you love French fries and all that, the first order change that you can make is to go to sweet potatoes on all of that. And if you don't have some people don't like sweet potatoes. I don't get it. I think they're fantastic, but try to start liking them, and you'll get benefits from making that change. So up here, not too far away from these guys, is white rice, and flour, of course, and pasta. Yeah. So flour. So that stuff, you don't have to get rid of it, but if you're going to have a pasta dish that has a whole lot of other stuff in it. A bunch of meat stuff, you know, a bunch of healthy meats and a bunch of healthy vegetables make it a better pasta dish anyway. So make sure that your pasta dish comes with a lot of that kind of stuff so you can get your balance that you're trying to get. Two important issues there. And actually, I've got a little bit of a drawing right there. Here's, again, an example of how simple and complex at the same time biochemistry is. Here's fatty acids. It's basically a hydrocarbon, a carbohydrate rather, and it's got a structure that gives it the transport properties that we were talking about earlier. There's two different types in general. You know, we talk about polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, and that's basically how many double bonds there are, carbon double bonds in there. It doesn't really matter what that all means. What it matters is there's just different properties that they get as a result. So anyway, there's an N group of omega-3 that looks like this, and an N group omega-6 that looks like that. I mean, to the naked eye, who knows what the difference is? It's just, you know, one versus the other. This one and this one are required by your body. Your body needs omega-3 fatty acids for transport property purposes and omega-6 fatty acids for the same. It needs them in a 1-to-1 ratio. Corn oil, you know what corn oil is, right? What kind of oil do you use when you're cooking? Coconut oil. That's fantastic. Coconut oil for the higher heat stuff, avocado and olive oil for the lower heat stuff. And olive oil. Okay, so I'm not going to change a thing there. So if you were to use, let's assume that you said that you used corn oil, which most people do, but you can throw in a whole bunch of other ones that we were told when they were produced and manufactured and marketed that they were healthy oils, like canola. Yeah. Do you remember canola oil being healthy? It's no more healthy than corn oil. It's the same. It's industrial seed oil. Safflower oil, sunflower oil, all kinds of others. All the oils that you see on the shelf besides coconut oil and avocado oil and olive oil. So anyway, corn oil has a ratio, let me draw this correctly, omega-6 to omega-3, 46-to-1. It becomes extremely pro-inflammatory at that ratio. So now you got inflammation again, okay? Simply because your French fries were fried in the most convenient way possible at the fast food restaurant. Let's talk about what we want to do. We don't want these. We want 1-to-1 balance of these, and we can get that through coconut oil, avocado oil, pretty much, and olive oil. Ghee is clarified butter. Basically, you take the butter and you scoop off the fats, right? And then you have a clarified, shelf-stable product. Once you make ghee, it sits there on your shelf. It's not in the refrigerator anymore. It's on the shelf. It's really quite nice to have for cooking purposes. We have a lot more to talk about, but that's enough for today, I think. And we're going to have some deep dive modules in the program that focus on this or focus on this. Some of the focus is on what spices, what can you do with the spices that you already have, and what spices should you have? And how could you create let's say you cook up a bunch of chicken on Sunday because you're doing your meal prepping. Who wants chicken and broccoli every single day for lunch? I mean, that sounds kind of boring. Not your husband. Okay, so how about if we do a chicken-based Mediterranean style meal on Monday, then we do a chicken-based Peruvian style meal on Tuesday. You're going to give us some recipes because you're going to learn how to maybe take one thing out and put another thing in and make it a super healthy menu recipe, and then you're going to put it on our Facebook page and educate us on. That sounds really. I'm really starting to. But yeah, so I mean, we're going to learn from each other quite a bit as we go through this process. Now, back to the subject of spousal and family support. That's a big issue. But a lot of people, you know, you're going to have family members that don't really know how to support you, and you'll have to find a way together. I can't advise you too much on that because it's so subjective, but you're going to have to maybe say, hey, I'm making this dish, would you like to try it, kind of thing, and hopefully they can kind of buy into it as well. Because the best source, like you've got Barbara at home, she'll buy into whatever you're doing, right? And you guys can go on that journey together. And if y'all could kind of get your spouses to do the same, that would be awesome.